Hey. In a room full of outstanding editors, it takes a lot to be impressive, and our next presenter impresses with ease. Please, I can't take you guys anywhere. We can't have anything nice in this house. Why can't we have nice things? That's all right. Wow, now I just called the whole room's attention to you guys. That was maybe the worst thing I could have. I'm such a dick. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I should have just let it go. My wife says that all the time. Why can't you let anything go? But the good thing is, I can take this misstep of mine and just pass it on to the next person I bring up. Please welcome Carol Littleton.
I hope I don't have to dance. Thank you, Tom. Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Craig McKay, a great friend of editors and a great friend of mine. And I think that in celebration, immediately after his tribute reel, we're all going to sit back and have a nice plate of liver, some fava beans, and a wonderful toast with a Chianti Vintage 1991 in celebration of Craig McKay. Craig's, I don't know which one of these to read, this or this. Craig started his career in the early 1970s, doing odd jobs in film and eventually working as an assistant for the likes of Alan Heim, Barry Malkin, and Evan Lotman. How would you like to work with those guys? Pretty neat. His big break came in 1978 with the miniseries Holocaust, starring Meryl Streep, and he received an Emmy and an Eddie for that. Not a bad start. Craig told me it was luck, but we all know we make our own luck. Look at Melvin and Howard, and which is Craig's first of 7 films with Jonathan Demme, and you will understand why their professional partnership was wildly successful. From Swing Shift to Silence of the Lambs, from Married to the Mob with Philadelphia, and all stops in between, Jonathan and Craig were brothers in their shared vision. The films that they created together were rich in surprise and humor, tears and fears. We all know those great films. In 1981, D.D. Allen saw Craig's extraordinary work on Melvin and Howard and asked him to co-edit Reds. In the annals of post-production, Reds is truly legendary. It's an epic film about love and revolution. It took over 2 years in the making, possibly the largest post-production crew in feature films then or since. A sampling of, hang on a second, of the editorial staff reads like a who's who of New York post-production. In picture, there was Angelo Corral, Eric Beeson, Jerry Greenberg, Jill Savitt, William Scharf, Claire Simpson, and Karen Stern. In sound, Dick Vorshek and Tom Fleischman, to only name a few of Red's 69-person post-production crew. Can you believe it? Red's had its fair share of drama and melodrama in and out of the cutting room. Editors were married, babies were born. Editors are very romantic types. There were death threats, and sadly there were a couple of divorces. But Dee Dee and Craig made it past the machinations of a high-maintenance director, codenamed WB, to the finish line with Eddie and Academy nominations. To my mind, Ed's is an example of incredible forbearance and the outcome was a masterpiece. I venture to say that on Reds, Craig survived the circles of hell to earn his stripes as one of the most important editors of our generation. Craig is an editor with an extraordinary visual sensibility. He has the courage to hold on to an image at the right time, for the right amount of time, to capture a moment of intense emotion. No dialogue needed. In Liev Schreiber's Everything is Illuminated, the field of sunflowers that you'll see in his tribute reel reminds the young protagonist and us, the audience, that the past illuminates everything. Craig's body of work illuminates the art of editing. Before we watch Craig's tribute reel, I want to tell you a little something about him. Craig is a wonderful raconteur. And if you are in New York anytime soon, you're going to want to go to Gabriel's near Columbus Circle, and you will be regaled with extraordinary stories from Craig. His friends congregate there on a regular basis, so much so that at the end of the bar, there's a bronze plaque with Greg's name reserved for Craig McKay. So there in this wonderful Italian place of dining, Craig will meet with his friends. He meets with young editors and does everything that he can to support their careers. The same thing with young directors. He supports he teaches them the ins and outs of filmmaking and makes them even better than they possibly ever been. So just remember, Gabriel's, New York. Meet you there. Right, Craig? Now we will see Craig's extraordinary reel, which reflects an extraordinary life in film. Craig, here's your reel.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, forget everything you've seen on television and in the movies.
I'm Lily.
Charles, pleased to meet you. You don't turn around and take me back. You're gonna make me do something that I don't want to do.
I can hardly wait, Charlie. You were my mother, and I brought this guy home as my husband. What would you think?
Very nice. But I'd get rid of those handcuffs if I were you.
I'm Howard Hughes.
Well, listen, I believe anybody can call themselves whatever they want. Give me
one reason on earth why this strange man would leave that will with you.
You got any money?
Oh, that's it. That's all I got. I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out myself.
This is what I've been longing for. A real family, in a true home. That's why I'm thinking it might be a good idea if I lived with you.
I could take something on.
Like what?
A job.
It's your own life. You got a right to be happy.
I can't. I'm married. Don't you understand that?
You don't have to sit here and listen to this garbage.
Neither do I.
Oh, no?
No!
No? No! What are you gonna do about it?
I want a divorce!
Angelina Markov?
Yeah?
FBI. You want to come downtown with us?
My husband worked for Tony, and he was iced. And Tony's been trying to screw me ever since.
He used to rob people who robbed people.
Police, freeze! You're no cop!
Kind of like Robin Hood?
Yeah, except I didn't give the money to the poor people.
I see cops who lose their way every day, and I don't like that, because their ambivalence is contagious. They infect those around them. They're like maggots. Where you find one, you find a nest.
We're interviewing all the serial killers now in custody for a psychobehavioral profile.
Who's the subject?
The psychiatrist Hannibal Lecter. Be very careful with Hannibal Lecter.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. I'm offering you a psychological profile of Buffalo Bill. I'll help you catch him, Clary.
What can I do for you?
I've been fired. I plan on bringing a wrongful termination suit against Charles Wheeler and his partners.
How many lawyers you go to before you call me?
9.
Because this case is not just about AIDS, is it? So let's talk about what this case is really all about. The general public's hatred, our loathing, our fear.
You get in there and you fight for your rights, okay?
Gee, I love you guys.
What it takes is leadership, and we gotta get it by getting recognition from Moscow. I have to go.
You don't have to go. You want to go. You want to go running all over the world, ranting and raving and making resolutions and organizing caucuses. What's the difference between the Communist Party and the Communist Labor Party, except that you're running one and he's running the other?
I've made a commitment.
To what?
Have you ever cared for something greater than yourself?
I've spent these last 4 years fighting for something greater than myself.
Then we are the same.
Make no mistake, the American people are terrified. They know something's coming. They can feel it.
Wars are fought one battle at a time. Battles you win one bullet at a time.
To serve people takes dignity and intelligence. But remember, what we do, Miss Ventura, does not define who we are. What defines us is how well we rise after falling.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Craig McKay.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. We're all not so invisible tonight. I didn't want to read off the teleprompter, so you'll have to bear with me. I've grown aversion to people reading off a teleconference. I'm very pleased to be the recipient of ACE's Career Achievement Award. I'd like to thank Jenny McCormick for organizing the event. Jared Simon for my tribute reel, and the board of directors of ACE. To receive this honor from all of you, my fellow editors, is an enormous thrill. I'm truly overwhelmed, but there are a few other individuals to whom I'm grateful. To begin with, my grandmother, who took me to see my first movie when I was 6. It's The Secret Garden. It followed a young girl who tries to help her handicapped cousin walk again. I related to this because I was also handicapped. It was in black and white, and when both entered the mother's garden, now open, everything exploded into glorious Technicolor. I was awestruck, especially when her cousin began to walk again. In that moment, I was smitten. My course was set, and the road said, movies. A few years later, I could be found dodging bats in the old Didsbury movie house and hanging out near the projection booth. I would find individual 35mm frames from Hot Splice trailers. I had the best collection, the Demetrius and the Gladiators, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Brigadoon, all in CinemaScope. I made short movies with my Revere camera and used the barn behind our house as a studio.
I once skipped high school to watch Sidney Lumet shoot The Fugitive Kind in the next town. I became friendly with actor Victor Georgi, who described the equipment that was being used. A Mitchell BNC, a huge 10K light, cutters on century stands, and of course, the odd Cucaloris. After some college, a friend of my father's asked me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Make movies." Well, as fate would have it, he happened to know somebody who worked in film. He asked me if I wanted to meet him. I said yes. We met, and 1 week later, I was in New York City carrying film cans back and forth to Technicolor, Deluxe, and Movie Lab. Thank you, Mort Fallick. After working in commercials for a while, I moved into freelancing features, assisting Alan Heim. This is parenthetic. Alan gave me my first job as a feature assistant. Also, Evan Lotman and Barry Malkin. I became a well-known assistant. Then, of course, I wanted to cut. I told everybody I was not doing any more assistant's jobs. Exactly 10 months later, I finally got a call. It was from Dee Dee Allen. She had suggested me for an ABC close-up project. I got my first editing job. Thanks to my agents at ICM Partners, Paul Hook and Dan Bain, for all the work they helped bring my way. I also want to, yes. I also want to thank my daughter Nell for eventually forgiving the long hours I spent away from her. A big thanks to all my magnificent, hardworking assistants who made everything possible. I'm forever grateful. Incidentally, they've all become fine editors, except two. One is now directing, and that's Bill Johnson. And the other is an executive at Disney, Nancy Cantor. One day I got a call from Dee Dee Allen saying, "I'm doing an epic project, a love story. It takes place during the Russian Revolution, Warren Beatty, Diane Keaton, Jack Nicholson. I cannot do it alone. Would you be interested in being my partner?" My answer was a very quick yes. It was then I first met Warren Beatty, who emphatically told me, "Craig, there's only one thing I want you to know about me. I'm the biggest narcissist in Hollywood." I said, "Understood." We struggled for almost 2 years, 3 million feet of film, a crew of 69, and ended up with Reds. Melvin and Howard, Swing Shift, Something Wild, Married to the Mob, Silence of the Lambs, and Philadelphia are some of the films that I did with the late director Jonathan Demme. He had a distinct vision and the collaborative spirit which is apparent in the work. From almost the beginning, there was a strong bond of trust between us. One day, while working on Lambs in the Brill Building, I happened to glance down the hallway and I saw Jonathan with Anthony Hopkins coming my way. They entered and Jonathan said, "Craig, Tony wants to ask you about a scene." I said, "Sure." Tony then described the scene and the bits he hated. He was deeply upset. I waited a bit and I said, "Tony, it's no longer in the movie." I had removed it. Tony smiled and gave me a quick "thank you" and left. All I can say is, Jonathan, our journey together was simply great fun. Cut with your gut. Cut with your gut, cut with your gut was Dee Dee's motto. And it still rings in the ears of everyone who worked for her. The process for her was not so much intellectual as it was intuitive. It took me a while to learn that, but I did. Thank you all.